Experts say more than 42,000 people die in traffic crashes each year here in the U.S. Huntsville's rapid growth will likely see its share of traffic incidents, and the city says it's doing its best to keep those numbers down. Our Kim McCoy has more.
Huntsville's population growth means there are not only more people driving, but also taking public transportation, biking, and walking, which can unfortunately create traffic problems.
All right, as we're adding folks, maybe people who aren't as familiar with the area, don't know their way around as well, which can cause distracted driving or can cause incidents if they're not really familiar with our street network.
The Department of Urban and Long Range Planning is developing Vision Zero Huntsville, a plan to ensure safe, healthy, and equitable mobility for all.
Basically setting a goal to minimize and at the end eliminate bike, pedestrian, and traffic fatalities. This is done through a variety of methods, but mostly it's looking at how is our infrastructure put in place, what types of safeguards and what types of design are we engaged in making our roads safer for all users.
Madsen says it's not so much that the city is growing, but it's more of the current infrastructure.
When people don't have as many opportunities to walk or bike or take transit to different destinations, when it's really focused heavily on the car, I think considerations for all those other modes get lost, and we're not always paying attention to pedestrians, and we're not always paying attention to cyclists, and that, I think, opens us up for more of those potential accidents.
Starting tonight, citizens have a chance to learn more about Vision Zero Huntsville through a series of forums while also discussing their safety concerns.
Any commuter or any person in a neighborhood is going to know their own experiences better than we are. When people are walking the same route day to day or biking the same route day to day, they can see patterns and they can notice issues far more quickly and in much more detail than the city can.
For the schedule of forums, head over to fox54.com. In Huntsville, Ken McCoy, Fox 54 News.
I think that it's getting a bit hectic lately.
Huntsville resident Colin Stewart is a bit concerned about traffic with the Rocket City's continuous growth.
Like different accidents, and that's definitely a big thing, especially on the interstate and highways.
HPD officer and traffic homicide investigator David Broom believes with the city's steady growth,
wrecks statistically are going to go up with the higher population that we have.
But the good news is,
so far year to date, our fatalities have gone down from this point from last year to this year. So we have seen a decrease in the fatalities.
So what are some of the more common causes?
Almost half of our fatalities, speed is a major factor involved with the fatality. We do also see distracted driving, intoxication. We do see some that are medical conditions that cause the fatality. Usually the larger roads that have higher speed limits and more lanes are the areas where we see higher issues with wrecks that involve fatalities and high injuries.
And when driving around the city from day to day, Broom leaves a word of advice.
Pay attention to what's around you. You can be doing everything right, but it's what the other person is doing that is causing our fatalities.
In Huntsville, Jasmine Bird, Fox 54 News.
Distracted driving, particularly with cell phones, is so dangerous. It's now illegal to hold one while driving. And about 3,000 people die in car accidents due to distracted driving. Our Jasmine Bird tells us more about a new proposed ordinance in Huntsville pushing to strengthen that.
Well, my family was in a car crash caused by a distracted driver in 2008. Put me in the hospital for a couple of weeks in a wheelchair for several months.
Right now, in the state of Alabama, the cell phone law is basically no holding, texting, watching a video, or otherwise physically using the phone while driving.
It's also a secondary offense the way it's written now, so the police have to witness some other behavior along with your cell phone use in order to pull you over.
However, District 2 City Council David Little is pushing for more with a new proposed ordinance referred to as a hands-free ordinance.
This new ordinance gives a little teeth to that existing one, so it's now a primary offense, and you can't have your phone in your hand. And it's hard to enforce because with the advances in technology over the last 12, 13 years since it was enacted, there's a lot more going on a cell phone than just texting.
Little believes the hands-free law that was passed by the state in the spring just wasn't very strong.
They call it hands-free, but it's not. So at the city level, we can make a law that's tougher than a state law.
So how soon could this new ordinance take effect if approved?
If it is voted on in later on the 14th, it would be enacted on January 1st of next year.
The community's input is also encouraged on September 14th at the 5:30 Huntsville City Council meeting.
They can have 3 minutes to come and speak about it because it's be an agenda item. So I'd encourage anybody that maybe has been affected by distracted driving.
In Huntsville, Jasmine Bird, Fox 54 News.
This one just adds more teeth to these existing laws. And who knows, at the state level, next year maybe they'll pass the actual hands-free law that we've been trying to do. But for now, even if it only lasts 6 months, I think it would send a real message across the state and even the country that some cities are willing to take the lead on this issue.
Well, the Huntsville hands-free ordinance has officially passed. All agreed to the law except Chairman Meredith. The law goes into effect January 1st. Officers would issue warnings for 6 months before full enforcement. After those 6 months, the first offense is $50, second offense $100 and no jail time. The third offense $150 and/or community service. More details on that law at fox54.com.
We have naturally seen more pedestrian vehicle accidents overall as our growth grows.
Foot traffic is on the rise here in the city, but it's not all good news.
We went back and looked at some of the data for 2023. The higher percentage of the accident vehicles versus pedestrians has been along the University corridor, especially between Parkway going west to Jordan Lane.
Pedestrian safety has been an ongoing conversation as the city grows, and Don Webster of HIMSI shares that these accidents could be lowered if pedestrians use crosswalks.
They're walking from their houses to these convenience stores at different hours of the day and night. People just don't always adhere to going to the crosswalks. It's a lot easier going to point A to point B versus a controlled crosswalk. So we have seen a higher percentage of those.
But that's not the only stretch of road seeing these accidents.
If you go from Jordan Lane west to about Sparkman Drive, you see a fair amount of pedestrian versus vehicle accidents. A high population of homeless people that walk down the area, generally because they're going to the rescue mission for, sheltering and food.
During Pedestrian Safety Month, HIMSI is asking the public to stay safe.
Wear light colored clothing, preferably something that's got a high visibility. If they're going to walk up and down, the thoroughfares and the roadways, even if they're going hiking, I suggest high visibility type clothing.
And motorists have a responsibility too.
People that are operating motor vehicles need to constantly be on the lookout, should be tentative to their driving habits, and as we all know, not dealing with their electronic devices. Never know when somebody dart out in front of you, be it a child or an adult.
For Fox 54 News, I'm Ken McCoy.
Cyclist groups in the city are asking for improvements to the infrastructure in Huntsville that would make their rides safer. Our Ken McCoy spoke with the group Huntsville Urban Bike Share Co-op and has the story.
So the cycling community is very fun in Huntsville.
The bicycling community here in Huntsville is very much a community.
I think Huntsville is a great place to bicycle. We do need some bicycle improvements. We need some infrastructure to make bicycling safer for everybody.
Cyclists in Huntsville say while the city is a great place to bike, this lack of infrastructure poses a safety risk.
Huntsville was the first city in Alabama that had a protected bike lane. However, there's still a lot of improvements that could be made. The cycling infrastructure network is definitely not connected.
Larry Mason of Huntsville's Urban Bike Share Co-op shares that causes stress for riders.
The way you put a bike infrastructure together will make it more or less stressful. So it's not really just a matter of how many miles of bike lanes you have. It's a matter of how stressful are those bike lanes.
A big component of feeling comfortable is being safe. A video shared with us by BAS Secretary Vivian Terry shows how concerns like near misses are often hard to report. When I asked Dario Gonzalez if he thought the roads were safe enough, he answered,
I want to say no. My oldest girl has trouble making decisions when bicycling on the road by herself. But you really have to be like a 30-year-old adult to be able to negotiate safely on Huntsville's roads when you're traveling somewhere that's not just on a greenway.
They say the city has been receptive, but there hasn't been noticeable improvement.
I have seen some small steps forward, but the pace of improvement is minimal compared to the pace of crashes going on. We will never get to a place where everybody, including my kids, can bicycle and walk safely if we continue at this pace.
We really lack a coordinated network where you actually have destinations and origins of trips that actually make sense.
Cyclists in the city suggest that the current routes plainly just doesn't make sense, leading to safety concerns.
Yes, of course, there's personal responsibility, and there are mistakes that drivers make, that bicyclists make, that pedestrians make, but you have to factor those in. And the safe way to do that is to provide more infrastructure and better infrastructure.
In order to be proactive, the city adopted Vision Zero.
Vision Zero really is a national trend towards designing streets for zero traffic deaths. It also isn't restricted solely to, say, pedestrians or cyclists. The goal really is to reduce traffic deaths in all modes.
A study done by Gonzalez shows why plans like this are needed.
I think it's averaging 49 pedestrian crashes per year, and bicycle crashes are far fewer. I think there's like a third of them, bicycle crashes per year. And it's really a problem. Most pedestrian crashes especially result in severe injury or death.
Madsen shares there was a report done over the summer that shows where these little hotspots are.
There are little hotspots, but they're kind of all over the community. In some cases, they're where you might expect, areas where there's a lot of car traffic and a lot of incidents anyway, just with cars. But there are also areas, that maybe aren't as dense that you don't expect. And in those cases, you can go and look and say, all right, there's not a whole heck of a lot of traffic here. Why are these things happening?
The city is looking into ways to enhance the current infrastructure, but it's a process.
Well, the one thing you want to do is make sure you're doing it efficiently, right? You don't want to add them in areas where they don't make sense. The MPO is charged with maintaining a bike plan. Well, that hasn't had a really comprehensive update in well over a decade. So we anticipate this probably January, February, kicking off a comprehensive update to our bike plan for the entire MPO region, identifying where are gaps in our bike infrastructure, what are kind of best practices for building out new bike infrastructure, and a lot of that came from the bike community really expressing an interest.
For Fox 54 News,